And I know the vice chairs are probably still in their co-chair / vice chair
Just
meeting.
coming out.
Oh, okay, good deal.
LaToya will be coming over too. How's everybody?
Oh, doing good.
Good.
Doing good, PG. How are you?
Good. Did I see Paula?
Hey, Porter, how are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
Hey, I just
We're
saw.
live on YouTube. We're live on YouTube.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
There's our leader. Now we're official.
We're in trouble.
There's a nice empty chair there.
As we'll wait a few more minutes before we start, just give me 1 minute. I'm trying to pull up the agenda and get all my documents in order.
Okay.
Welcome, Council Member Lisa Higgins-Hort. We're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here.
Well, we hope you say that at the end of the meeting because we got some assignments for you.
Uh-oh. Are we actually on yet, or are we?
Yes, we are live.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Lisa?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll get back to you on that.
All right. I think that we have everyone who plans to attend today. Mr. Devon is not going to be able to be with us today. He's stuck out of town, but I think everyone else is here on the line. No, I think we're missing Abdul.
Is Roy on?
Roy is on.
PG.
Hey, Roy.
How you doing?
I'm good, bud. Yourself?
Good.
But we'll go ahead and get started. We have a few
Sure.
guest speakers, and one of our guests is under a time constraint, so I don't want to wait any longer, and we'll just get other members that join us up to speed. Our first item on the agenda, of course, is the reading of the Governor Beshear's executive order. I'll take that time to read that now.
And LaToya, do you have the revised version?
I do. Thank you,
Okay.
Arthur.
Okay. Well,
Gerald, as you know, during the state of emergency, Senate Bill 150 permits public bodies subject to the Open Meetings Act to meet via live video teleconference or audio if video is not available. In order to comply with the Open Meetings Act, a statement must be read at the beginning of the meeting and included in the official record of the meeting. The following is the statement to be read based upon recent opinions of the Attorney General. Due to COVID-19 pandemic and state of emergency, this meeting is being held via live video teleconference pursuant to 2020 Senate Bill 150 and in accordance with KRS 61.826 because it is not feasible to offer a primary physical location for the meeting. Next item on our agenda is approval of our August 6th meeting minutes. Arthur shared those with the group earlier this week. Want to give everyone a brief moment and an opportunity to read those minutes, and then we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Meetings from our August 6th meeting have been approved. Want to go a little bit off agenda, and at this time, welcome Council Member Lisa Higgins-Hort to our subcommittee.
Thank you.
I don't know you all received the press release from the mayor's office, but I'll just give Lisa an opportunity to speak briefly to the group. Introduce yourself, and thank you for being among us.
All right. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your meeting today. I look forward to learning a lot from each of you, and I'm actually ready to get started. That's about all I got to say.
Well, we're glad to have you. At this time, if anyone doesn't have any questions or anything to share with Lisa, I'd like to spend a few minutes just talking a little bit about our co-chair and vice chair's meeting that we had today at 11 o'clock and just give you an update of where we are there.
Perfect.
All right. Our vice chairs did have a meeting with the mayor this week. They discussed a few various things. 3 topics that were shared with us today were information that they discussed regarding housing rights and the PDR initiative, which basically allows the cities to purchase farms and then develop them commercially. So they're looking at additional opportunities in that area for African Americans and people of color. They've also discussed that yard signage. I don't know if any of you guys have seen some some signages that have been recently placed in various neighborhoods that say we support and respect the Lexington Police. That was done by the FOP. We think there's about 50,000 signs out there, and you know, I think the takeaway from there is, you know, obviously there was a calculated design to kind of focus narratives or change narratives in light of what this committee is doing. I actually had a neighbor across the street from me that displayed the sign. You know, I can be deemed adversarial given my profession. So we had a nice talk on his porch. My younger daughter does things a little bit differently. So she now has a Black Lives Matter sign in our yard. In any event, we're all in violation of the neighborhood restrictions. So I just called a complaint on, and we're all going to get, all of our signs are going to be removed here quickly. So, but I just throw that out there, you know, as part of our task. You know, we were asked to identify barriers, and we're going to be hit with groups and organizations that perceive or have a narrative of what we're doing and want to change that narrative to focus on their interests. Obviously, we support and respect the Lexington Police as well. I have one that's my neighbor. He generally comes as my pet sitter when we're out of town. Well, not our pet, our house sitter out of town. So, you know, I just want us to be mindful of that and be thinking about that as we all kind of develop our objectives and outline our report. The third thing that our vice chairs discussed with the mayors is the need for our boards and commissions among the city to be more diverse. And I understand the mayor had reached out to PG in that regard, and they're working on that effort.
Yeah.
PG reported that he shared that message with his group of the Black clergy, and they're going to be looking at vacant boards and commission seats and develop a program or design to nominate or support diverse members' selection and appointment on those various boards and commission. PG, did I accurately summarize that? Do you have anything else?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We also have brief reports from all of our subcommittees. The health group is focusing on food access, policy implication and are now reviewing the town hall suggestions that they received in response to their town hall, and kind of going to regroup and make sure that their report and objectives are in line with some of the things that were suggested by the community. Our housing subcommittee has already outlined 8 or 9 working recommendations. They have now divided them in the subgroups so that each of various subcommittee members of their group report on each of these recommendations. They're going to have 2 guest speakers at their meeting this week. One, Janet Bard, to talk about CRA and the Reinvestment Act, and Ranita Rosa from PNC to talk about opportunity zones. Education is moving forward. I don't have much notes on that, to be honest. I got distracted and sent an email. So PG, if you have anything to report on education, please fill in the gap there, because I have absolutely no notes on that.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I was trying to recall, and I don't, evidently didn't do a note on that one. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, to the extent, I'll look at their meeting minutes when they come out, and I'll update that in our minutes accordingly. We also, Judge Kaufman spoke on behalf of the law enforcement legal team. She did a debriefing of their Monday's meeting. They're going to continue to focus on the pivot to justice, and then they're really looking for moving forward to encourage or recommend implicit and unconscious bias training for all. I love Judge Kaufman's where she calls it for all guardians of the systems, basic judges, appointed and elected officials that play a part, a key integral in some of these systems that we know contribute to racial disparities and inequities. Finally, the vice chairs of court have shared the template of the report and asked if there were any thoughts regarding that report. We've remained silent because our objective now is to actually prepare a report ourselves. So we'll kind of have to figure out how our report how to tailor our report consistent with the template report of what our vice chair wants from each subcommittee. Finally, we concluded the meeting with Dr. Smith just kind of throwing out some other ideas that have been brought up that none of our subcommittees have really talked about. One, reparation is coming from the community a lot, and then a city apology. We've seen that in other cities. Those discussions are out there, so we just wanted the group to be mindful of that when we kind of work on our various perspective objectives. That's all I have from the vice chair.
Latoya, let me bring up one thing.
Please do, PG.
Let's see, a couple of days ago, then at the council meeting, the group Take Back Cheapside was given their report and talking about their recommendations to change the name of the courthouse. That was going on really well. I think the council was receptive. The Parks Commission, Parks Group that oversees that has already unanimously approved that name change. But as the discussion went on, and then the mayor opened up it for public comment, and that's when the train jumped the track because someone called in and openly used the N-word about the African Americans who were participating and who were talking during the meeting. And then once again, our council was just caught, dumbfounded about how to deal with that. James Brown did come forward and ask that they do a cease and desist in terms of the public comment until they can technologically figure out a way to manage that. And what Gerald did as our committee chair said that he had concerns that none of the council people spoke up against that kind of action when people call in like that. So, and I thought there was a strong statement coming from the leader of this Race Relations Commission.
Yeah, that's a great point, PG. Yeah, we still continue to face, the obvious silence issue and the lack of power.
Yeah, if you don't speak up, sometimes it can be seen as complicit. So um, in the unconscious bias training, that's one of the things they always talk about is as John Lewis used to say, you see something, say something. So
That's right. And that's what we teach our children.
Yeah.
I know we have a guest speaker, David Colzart, who's also the co-chair of the law enforcement, legal subcommittee. I wanted to now pass the mic to Mr. Colzart to kind of talk further about the report card system that we have kind of shot around as probably our chief objective of this coming out of this group.
Yeah, let me just step right in front of David just a second and say to the committee that when we did this report back in 1910, David took the 2010.
David's that old, huh?
PG's that old.
Wow, David did a great job of bringing together the people who helped make this document real. And so today, Dave's going to, I think, share a little bit with us about how that process went. I guess ideally, we'd like to think that it might be considered by the big group as a model for us to do the comprehensive, the final report that goes to the public. All yours, David.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the work.
Not seeing David.
Everybody's debrief potential. You seeing me?
Yes,
See
we are
you.
now.
Oh, in here. Okay. I will be brief, and on what I share, I primarily want to be able to answer any questions that I might be able to answer. So appreciate the work of this racial equity committee. I'm on law enforcement, as you heard, law enforcement justice and accountability. And that accountability piece, we all know is part of everybody's subcommittee. We're going to want accountability and sustainability for whatever we put out. We're not doing this for a fool's errand, or nobody has time for an exercise in futility. And so in thinking about that, my mind rolled back to the state of Black Lexington in that project. That I did not do that project. I really didn't put a lot of pen to paper. There was a misconception, I think, that I did that project myself and in earnest. That is not accurate. In fact, what I want to impress upon the group is the magnitude of that project and the work that went into it. So you will know, and you likely have looked on the website, Brother Peoples has very insightfully put that back up as it started bubbling again on the website. And I revisited that as well as revisited whatever notes that I could pull out of the archives. That process, the first note I found on it, Brother Peoples, recorded was the spring of 2008.
Yeah.
And you will know that it was published the fall of 2010. So that gives you an idea of the magnitude of the project and getting it started. Now, it was an inaugural. And so we were wayfinding in a way that this project may not have to wayfind. But it came out of a 600, you will know it came out of a 600 respondent survey that was completed by the community. You will know that it had similar or synonymous categories as we're addressing here on this commission on racial equality that the mayor has had: health disparities, law enforcement, education, housing. All of these things were the categories that were there. So we have all that in common. The layout was done by Preston Osborne, and they dedicated an individual to that. And then very important, they dedicated an individual that believed in the spirit and the ethos of the project. That's very important. Whoever's doing that editing, whoever's doing that has got to believe in the work. And we will know that that is not the case with everybody. If you listen to Law Enforcement's commission meeting last week, you'll know that there are people in prominent places in our systems that do not believe that we have systemic racism. And so we'll want to make certain that the team that we build around this is on board, and that is very forthright about it. The team around it, a lot of people on this. Brother Peoples is humble and being coy. You know, if I was doing work at the Urban League with Brother Peoples, I was chasing his shadow, trying to, and he was 2 blocks out ahead of me. And so I was just providing some administration, but a lot of the work, the research was done out of African American Studies at the University of Kentucky. And we looked at work they done in the equity report. We had the National Urban League's work, which was available to us as a template, and we consulted with some individuals nationally. We looked at Fayette County Public Schools and their data. We looked at all manner of data nationally as well, synthesized that into a local report. And so that took the manpower and woman power of several people, and they're all listed on the back, some 15 contributors to that process in varying levels. So not that we have to do something synonymous to that. That was State of Black Lexington. I think what we're looking for now is State of Black Equity, a State of Black Equity report that could be used as an accountability instrument moving ahead that actually transcends the current administration, the current chief, the current governor. And if we did this annually or biannually, it's the concept that it could be the report card. So the State of Black Equity report card that is comprised of or out of the recommendations of these various subcommittees. And so I think that is the concept. If the racial equity subcommittee thought that was a viable pursuit, you could be forming that accountability and sustainability component for this entire exercise that everybody could feed into. So the State of Black Equity report, which by the way is SOBER. I don't know how that acronym rings with folks, but wouldn't be bad if we were sober in reference to equity to African Americans. I'll entertain any questions from people. I hope that's what you want.
Oh yeah, very good, very good, David. Very good capsule of that process, and I'm glad you brought it to everybody's attention that it was a 2-year process. But given the information that we've got and the committees that we got to work today, if we choose to go this route, a lot of that work is already done. Do you agree?
Yeah, that's right. So with that being the inaugural week, we wanted to gather valid local information. These subcommittees represent the community, as community representatives, has individuals from the various areas of expertise that are bringing valid and salient information for us to start off with, so that I don't think you have to do the respondent. You synthesize the recommendations and you put the measurements and year to year you can do progress. So yes, that's a great point, Brother Peoples. We get a jump start on this.
Yeah, we do. We're ahead of the game. I think memory serves. Gerald Smith was one of our co-chairs. Now I think did the forward in the 1910 report.
Gerald Smith did. He was part of it. Lisa's office had some insights to it. And she resourced us with a couple of UK professors and administration that were integral into the process. They're all gone now. But University of Kentucky played a major role as well.
Johnny?
Madam Chair, any questions from anyone? Questions, observations,
PG,
thought?
PG, this is Roy. First of all, David, I had an opportunity to read the report, and kudos to whoever the team was that put it together, okay? Because I thought that, all of us have been around for quite some time and have read various reports. The second thing I wanted to say real quick is welcome Lisa Higgins-Hort to
Yeah.
our work, because we just appreciate you being here. We wasn't so sure we were going to be able to get a representative from the council, and so we thank you for being here.
Yes.
No doubt about it. The other thing I wanted to ask was, as a result of the report, did you all see favorable movement as a result of the report? And if so, can you just give us a synopsis of what that movement was?
I wouldn't categorize it as a movement. I would say it created a moment.
Okay.
And I think that's where we are right now with what we're doing today with this, with our work, is we're hoping that this is sustainable, where our work is sustainable in some fashion, that it does become a movement to effectively change things in our community for the better.
Mm-hmm. And would you agree that it at least made people aware then of what some of the concerns were? And because that's what, when I read it, it appeared as if awareness was at least heightened.
I certainly think it was, and I think it's 10 years later, and some of the topics, all of the topics in there are still just as relevant and critical for the growth and development of this community today. And I would hope that that's the way the rest of our committee sees it.
Okay.
I would not disagree with that.
Go ahead, David.
I said I wouldn't disagree with that at all. And again, it was a wonderfully done report. It was a 2-year process. That doesn't mean that was from first note to publisher. It was probably longer than that in thought and preparation, because there was an element that individuals had to understand that that there was a need for this, and that Brother Peoples was able to impress upon folks that, and it set the Black community as a segment of the community in a very empirical way that had unique needs, and rolled out to the chamber. That moment was a good one, but it's the sustainability that it can bring to this work that is as exciting, and that's there as a foundation, I think, is very valuable. So,
Roy, let me go back to your question about when I said that it was a moment rather than a movement. Let's talk about an exercise, a report that was done here that really became a movement, and that was the original Equity Council report.
Yes.
That became a movement because the board adopted it and mandated that it become part of the regular activities of the Fayette County School Board, and that the Equity Council would report not through the superintendent, but up to the board. And as you know, that has sustained itself because few of us on this call right now have been part of that process. Wouldn't it be great if that's what we could do with the documents that we're pulling together, the information that and all of the work that's going on right now?
That's it. I agree. And that's the reason why I'm asking the types of questions. Right. I think you guys know where we're trying to go as far as this is concerned. We just don't want it to be something that is a good report and then it sets up on somebody's shelf.
Yeah.
We have opportunity at this point to even do some things statutorily, but certainly it can be the guidebook that sits on the desk of the mayor now and the mayor to come, the
You're
chief
right.
now and the chief to come, university president now, university presidents to come. You have that. And as a community, we say, we've given you what we know to be the needs. And if it's not in your interview speech or your acceptance speech, then it's clear that you have not considered what the community's voice has been, Black community.
Agreed.
Madam Chair, anybody else that comments?
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, this is Johnny Johnson. I just wanted to know, just for some context, was there something going on during that time? Like, we've got this movement right now that's happening in our nation and in our city. Was there something going on in 2010 that pushed you all to produce this report and get on these conversations? Just for some context. And then, was it commissioned by anybody, like anybody in local government, council or mayor or anything like that? Or just those two questions, Mariah?
As I recall, I think David had come to work with the Urban League, and I thought that was one of the assignments. I kind of asked him to take on us doing something that replicates the state of Black America that National Urban League does.
Okay.
And so it was commissioned by the Urban League board.
Gotcha.
To
Okay.
do this. The irony of it is, as we speak at this moment, Mark Morial is rolling out this year's 2020 State of Black America report.
Yeah.
Starting at 10 o'clock this morning, and then they will be going the rest of the day. How ironic.
That report, actually, the Washington Post and some of the other local media or other major media sites already have that, particularly from the COVID link to
Right.
what COVID has kind of stripped bare about racial inequities, and particularly in healthcare. So it's really, I've only had time to look at the summary, but it's really interesting material.
I think the topic is, the headlines is unmasking COVID and racism.
Yeah.
Both very relevant.
I'm going to have to jump.
Okay.
Brother Johnson, I would encourage you to look at the background on page 3 of that.
Okay.
And it does talk about, the folks that realized in 2007, a Human Rights Commission, Urban County Government, Urban League leading that, University of Kentucky, the Commission on Race Relations, that came together for that. But when you look at it, Brother Peoples, you said it. I mean, it's still nail on the head, on the goals and the metrics that we're looking at. And it was even before Black male initiatives were really apropos and popular.
Yeah.
That was one of the metrics that was being measured. And then and then it explicitly says to be a catalyst for ongoing evaluative and action-oriented corrective processes regarding the status and needs of Blacks in Lexington. So it's just trying to let folks know that, hey, there is a population here that warrants and needs this specialized effort.
Will do. Thank you for that, David.
Let me just add this. David mentioned the Commission on Race Relations. What a lot of us probably have forgotten is that there was, in fact, a Commission on Race Relations that was established here in Lexington and funded by the government following the Antonio Sullivan shooting. And I think Chris is, I don't know about Arthur, but I know Chris is familiar with that existence. And that Commission on Race Relations was housed here with the Urban League. And, we did quite a few things out there that brought to light, true racism here in our community. We even produced some videos that showed how, as an African-American, if you went into a store, how the people would follow you around And that was just one of the kinds of things that we did to draw attention to racism as it existed then. I think what might be different this time is that as this committee took on our charge, the mayor did say that we need to deal with systemic racism because it is real.
Hey, PG, this is Josh.
Yeah.
You know, there were several efforts like that are still gathering dust, as it were. Maybe I wonder if there's a catalog of some sort somewhere that we can plug into and maybe some of those off the shelf. I mean, one that comes immediately to mind for me is the One Community, One Voice report.
Right. Yeah, we've got that. Yes. Yeah, that was originally funded through the Knight Foundation.
Mhm.
It was a catalyst for quite a bit of change in Fayette County schools. But yes, we have that one, Jock, for sure. Jock.
I would hope that the city would own this. I mean, we do a state election annually. This could be an addendum too, if you will.
Yeah.
Because the work is being done to get that information. Once this is put together, it seems to me that, you know, there could be a cutout piece just to cover this, to make sure that, again, it's being looked at, measured, and then followed up on as well. So that's just a thought.
Brother Abdul, I'm gonna jump off here. My parting word would say that's exactly what I'd like to add on the way off. I think that it is very important that several institutions own it and endorse it and even resource it with the expertise they have within the respective institution, the chamber, the university, the city, all of those entities in which we are looking at opportunities for them to grow and at opportunities for them to better serve all communities, particularly the African American community, are the very ones that should endorse and invest in this. So I appreciate each one of you.
David, thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I don't
Thanks,
know
David.
if it's out of order or not, but I'm going out there on the limb anyway. I would like to hear from the rest of our committee members about whether we think that we might want to have this as a recommendation, that it becomes, you know, a report card for our city, and that be part of the recommendation to go to the mayor, so we can talk about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is Johnny. I think that's a good direction for us, knowing that, you know, we had some questions at the beginning of our committee meetings in terms of a focus. And this will help us focus. And that, again, we decided that we were going to take reports from all the different committees and kind of give an update, and this will help guide that, I think.
Right.
For us. So I would be in favor of using this as either a background or a backdrop or kind of a direction for us to go. It just makes sense for me.
Okay.
I agree, but I also think that there have to be really well-defined goals and expectations that can be measured on an ongoing basis in order for us to figure out whether we're making any progress or not. You know, when I was looking through the report from 2010, one of the things I wanted to know was, well, have we made any progress against any of these things that were measured in 2010? Now that information is probably out there and we can dig it out, but unless we narrow this to the point where we have specific things that we know make a difference and we can track and we can measure progress, then I worry that we kind of get into boil the ocean and don't have a show in the end.
And
Yeah,
you know,
totally
Paula,
agree.
I think we
Because
probably would be able to speak to that now had we had the resources to sustain it,
Absolutely.
or had the kind of community collaboration to sustain it. I think we're living in a different time now where I think this community would be receptive to, and I think the government and other entities would be receptive to saying that we do need to resource this and sustain it.
Yeah, and I totally agree, Paula. I think you gotta have a component of data metrics, specific data metrics to hold these programs accountable and to determine whether or not they're working. So that, so there's a constant change. We stick with what works, don't fix what's not broke, but we revise or implement new things that aren't working. So yeah, I think it definitely has to have that data metrics. And
Yeah.
And I would agree in that. I think that what the report has said previously and what Dr. Gerald Smith put out there, I think, and we talked about this last week as well, that those equity indicators could be combined, but I agree with what you guys are saying. We've got to be able to measure
it,
what has taken place, because if we don't measure it and everybody just says, oh, it's a great report, we pat ourselves on the back, we walk away. But that's all that happens. We pat ourselves on the back, we walk away, and then it just goes back up on the shelf. So we've got to make sure that we can measure the progress that has occurred. And if it doesn't actually meet our expectations, we've got to be able to stand up and say something about it.
Yeah, and somebody, you're right, Porter, you're right, PG. Somebody has to own it.
Yeah, I think when I talk about it being owned, I may be out there by myself, but I'm talking about the LFUCG owning it.
Mhm.
I think Teron wants to speak.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
My question is, if we're going to use this, can you all hear me? I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay. My question is, if we're going to use this as a metric, are we going to compare what happened in 2010 to what's going on today, or are we going to use 2010 as a framework for what's going on today, incorporate what's going on today, and then measure it moving forward? I want to make sure I'm understanding.
Good question.
No, I'm not so. I brought this for us to look at as a model so that we can then make
Build
those
off
kinds
of
of
it.
decisions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't bring those answers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was
Yeah, I
just
think we build off of that, right?
That's
yeah. Because it got to apply to 2020. You can't, right? You can't measure on 2010 times.
So we're going to use it as a framework.
This was intended to keep us from starting from ground zero.
That's what I'm asking. Okay, that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. Okay, thank you.
Josh, you're on mute. You're still on mute, Josh.
Sorry about that.
There you are.
PG, I'm not that familiar with the city funding process. And so my question is, are we going to advocate for the establishment of a line item to fund either an organization, an individual, a combination for keeping track of progress, for reporting back to the committee, reporting back to the our city leaders? Because what happens, what I see happening anyway often, is that the reports are sent in, but there's the follow-up is in the lack of further support for the group that has initiated the report. And I think one of the things we need to consider is funding for someone who's going to ride herd over the city and report back to either us or whatever organization or the committee is established for that purpose.
My thought on it was that we would be recommending that the city owns this and it becomes part of the ongoing operations of the government, and that it be placed in some funded department to carry out, and then it's a annual report. I think that if it's If it's valued, they can help, they can figure that part out, that funding part.
And Arthur, can you educate us a little bit more in that regard? I mean, we do have a diversity and inclusion type department or thing within the city council, right, Arthur? That's you.
No, not within city council.
For the government.
City government.
I'm actually the diversity officer for LFUCG. And I do not have a staff. And I actually report to the CAO's office, the Chief Administrative Officer of city government.
And Arthur, do you have a separate budget for your diversity efforts that are tied to city funding?
My budget is tied to the CA. I do not have an individual budget. My budget is tied to the CAO's office.
Guys, you know what? I don't think that's our problem to worry about. I think what we need to do is do our work and make the recommendation to the city that we see this as critical to the growth and development of our city. And then let's let those minds who do that figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just kind of going through, piggybacking on what Josh said.
And I'm still talking to Josh also.
You know, I was just looking at the template report that our vice chairs compared, and it's part of the recommendation. It asks, you know, will it require council action, budgetary decisions, and things like that. So
of course,
just trying to get a little bit more of an understanding of that, so that we can actually include that, you know, answer those questions in our report as well.
And LaToya, I think that with all that Josh and PG are saying, I think that we make the recommendation. LFUCG then figures out what department it would go into and how it's going to be funded. We had to do that with the Fayette County Public Schools.
The Equity Council,
Exactly. But we made a recommendation. They then decided what department it would be under, who would head it up. And then we was just able to monitor as an outside agency, because that's going to be critical as well. You know, let's say, for instance, if we give that to Arthur to monitor, then he's basically monitoring himself and LFUCG. Well, Arthur works for LFUCG, and that's nothing against you, Art. Okay, but there has to be an outside monitoring effort so that we can make sure that everything that we have recommended is actually occurring and coming up off the paper. Then we can say something about it if it's not.
It's a great point, Roy.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I guess, you know, as part of our report, we need to identify that third-party agency that we want, that at least make recommendations, maybe would be the better choice of word, of that third party that can continue to monitor and complete this report, right?
Right.
Because you know what I sometimes find in my job, you know, we may identify some attorneys of color who may be struggling for their performance reviews, and then we give them a writing coach or a third party entity, and then when you look at that third party group that we look, there's no people of color. So all the people that are being the mentor and coaching the person of color, there's a disconnect. So I just say that because that was one of the things that I just learned that, you know, this year in my firm, like, well, we've never really even sourced our agencies to make sure that they can meet the unique needs of the people that we're sending to them that may otherwise need help. And that's a little different here, but I just don't want to leave it up to the city to make that choice independent.
Okay.
Right.
Of our committee's recommendation.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. Anyone have any thoughts? Lisa, I know you were involved in, was one of the partners in the State of the Black Lexington project. Do you have any ideas regarding this report, the specifics in it, and a third-party agency that can work on it, on an ongoing basis?
I think you are moving in the right direction. And I think at the time when the State of Black Lexington was going on, I believe I was on the Urban League Board. I believe I was. So at that time, I was serving in my responsibility with that, and also in partnership with the University of Kentucky. But I've just been taking some notes here, copiously been taking some notes and trying to get myself up to speed here. This is my second day. But I'm really impressed with the fact that you are moving in this direction right now. And the things that I'm hearing that you're saying right now is that you want, whatever this is, that you want this to be well-defined and it's specific for progress, and that we need specific types of data and metrics to hold people accountable, and that we're looking, that this has to be critical to growth and development for this city. But in some way, we have to also identify an agency or recommend a group that may be an outside auditing option in order to look at what is really happening. But also you have to find a baseline, which is what are you trying to measure and why are you trying to measure it? And you're wanting the city to own this, is what I'm hearing. So I think you are definitely moving in the right direction. I think it's also important to, I know that we have the State of Black Lexington. I think there are several other opportunities out there too, looking at what kinds of reports or commissions that had put forth recommendations in the past to see exactly what they did. But what are we trying to achieve here? What are we really looking at? And I think that's the most important thing. So I'm going to continue listening diligently today, but I do think that you are moving in the right direction. That we definitely do need something like this.
Hey, I appreciate it. Anyone else have any further comments, ideas, about kind of our report and fleshing this out a little bit further?
One of the things I think we've talked about a little bit is communications, effective communications. And those things also fall into the same framework. If the work is ongoing, then the communication of the work needs to be ongoing. And that too needs to be part of a recommendation for accountability and transparency. So keep that in mind too. Communication does not happen unless it is committed to and funded, and someone owns it. So I think that's important also.
And I also heard, and I'm just going to interject here, that you want, what I'm hearing you say is that you need the city to own this, but then also the responsibility falls upon other organizations and entities in the community as well. Is that something that you're going to outline or identify because they are some of the largest employers in the city, or have you thought that through?
No. At least again, let me go back to, since this was my committee, basically what I was bringing a model for us to work from. And then all of the kinds of things that you're bringing up like that, that's for us to do. Okay. And and I just brought this model because we have it. I mean, it could be another one. It really doesn't matter, just as long as I think it's important that we emphasize accountability and sustainability.
So we got some work to do. I've been taking notes and kind of, putting in things in the template, putting some of the things we've discussed in the template report, just in kind of in a notes fashion. But I think at this point we got about, and I think it might be best served to kind of maybe define the specific tasks for each of our group to work on as part of this report, if this is, what we want to move forward. I know, Paul, we had already divided up kind of a communications team, a training team, and a report team. And, I think you're right, Paula, that communication component could be added into this report based on kind of the things we've discussed today. And in our previous thing, I think the training team, I was going to work on that, and I've already identified that is something that our vice chairs talked about today, this implicit bias training and moving that forward. So I could definitely have that component. I can put that into the report. But I think, at this point, since our report is really going to track what our subcommittee objectives are doing and push that forward, I think maybe we identify members to kind of review those subcommittee notes and start preparing, kind of, outlining those objectives, and then trying to look at ways that we can define metrics or equity indicators and measure what our subcommittees or initiatives or some of our subcommittees initiatives. I know I've been rambling on, but basically maybe assign someone or two people to each to review each subcommittee note thus far, figure out if we can pull out their objectives, and then kind of work to include data metrics and equity indicators that we can measure, and then kind of circle back up and we can start dropping those into a report. I'm open for suggestion. That was just kind of I just rambled that out as kind of next steps to get us kind of putting the pen to paper.
And LaToy, if the subcommittees need to meet separately, that needs to be a public meeting also. I'm just checking.
That's what I was wondering about.
Is that right, Arthur?
I'll have to verify, but I do not believe, if we're not meeting as an entire subcommittee, I do not believe that it has to be a public meeting.
Okay.
I mean, like
That would
we're
be
working
helpful.
on separate projects.
But one of the things I remember from this morning was that the Public Safety Committee has said all along they've been meeting twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I know all of those have not been.
Right,
I
and
don't
it may be considered like a breakout session or something,
Yeah.
where a couple of people are getting together to have
Yeah.
discussions about whatever topic.
If we're going to complete our task, we're going to have some other meetings.
Yeah, I think we definitely got, our report is due in, about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So I definitely think we as an entire subcommittee need to meet twice a week going forward. And then, I think as we break down kind of our tasks, we probably need to meet independently during that frame to kind of get the ball rolling.
And LaToya, let me say this now, with council being back in session, and Quinn is the person that's over the Zoom meetings for the subcommittees as well as the council, I think Tuesdays and Thursdays may now be off the table because they're so full with council meetings.
Okay. That's a great point, Arthur. So, so you're saying Tuesdays and Thursdays, we may no longer be able to meet on our standard Thursday time.
Right, and let me, after the call today, verify with Quinn as far as the possibilities of other dates and times.
Okay, and then will you just shoot an email to the group to get the best dates and times for us to meet if this Thursday doesn't work out going forward? Okay.
Yes.
And real quick, Arthur and LaToya, I just got off the phone with Glenda. I think she's gonna text you here in a second, LaToya, and give you some information about what those breakout meetings, what the legal requirements are for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good.
LaToya,
Yes,
I know
sir.
last week you weren't able to be with us, but I did want to make sure that you were aware. We had talked about the Get Out the Vote campaign. And so I had reached out to several different Greek organizations and several different organizations throughout the community. And we had a lot of great response because, of course, with the election being in November, we knew that we have a short period of time. Well, since Clark Williams already has a model together, I had asked everybody to let's come under that umbrella so that we would be able to move things forward. I've had an offline conversation with Clark. He's willing to have everybody that wants to be involved in a Zoom meeting so he can then give some instruction as to where we are now and what our next steps need to be. So many people in your absence had said they didn't want to have this committee just sit idle after we have given our report. So I just wanted you to be aware that that is a next steps as far as some of us are concerned. And so that's what's going to be happening. That Zoom meeting is going to take place next Thursday at 6 o'clock. So I'm going to make sure that I get with Clark so that everybody on this call can get that information. But please, ma'am, please, sir, put that on your calendars if you're interested in being a part of the Get Out the Vote campaign. I think that date is the 20th of August at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Roy. I appreciate that update. So that's next Thursday at 6 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said there's a Zoom link. Has it already been sent or?
No, we're going to get that out,
Okay.
get that out to everybody. I just wanted to make sure that you knew about Clark Williams.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So, any other kind of next steps, thoughts of where we go from here? I did just get an email a text from Glenda, and she said any of our subcommittee breakout meeting or public meetings as well. So we would have to have those open up to the public. So we will have to wait to hear back from Arthur about times and dates of availability that we can do that. But to the extent we can go ahead and figure out who on our group wants to tackle, who and what each member of our group wants to tackle, I think that would be helpful.
This is Johnny. I'm happy to, look at one or two of the other subcommittees and just kind of pull out objectives and start looking at potential metrics. So if you want to assign me a couple, I'm happy to do that so that we can start moving forward.
Thanks, Johnny. Given your background, would education probably fit up your alley?
I think so.
Yeah. I'll take on
I'll do
legal and law
housing.
enforcement.
Abdul, I'll do housing.
I'm sorry, I keep talking over people. Is that you, Abdul?
Yeah.
Abdul, housing. That leaves economic.
I'll do economics.
Okay.
All right.
I'm happy to help with the health if that's still out there, healthcare.
Yep. Paula, healthcare is still out there, and I was gonna put you on the communication component.
Yeah, that's fine. And I have some thoughts. I'll ship those over to you on the communications piece, LaToya.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll keep Devon on the communication and the youth type component since he's been working in that regard.
LaToya, I'll work wherever you assign me.
Josh, you want to help me with legal and law enforcement? Because that's a big.
Love to.
And then Taran just texted me and said he'd do education with me. Okay.
Okay.
Abdul, I'll join with you with the housing.
And hey, folks.
Fantastic. Thanks, PG.
Hey, guys, this is Quinn in the mayor's office. I just wanted to jump in here for a second. I've spoken with Commissioner Ford in social services, and the decision was made several weeks ago. We're not going to be able to do the breakout groups like we discussed. Now, what we can do is we can assign individuals to work on different subjects, like we discussed, but those can't be collective meetings. You can communicate via email and work on your own, but there can't be any type of real meeting, so to speak. So I just wanted to set that out there so we're all on the same page.
I think that works, right? Because we can work individually within our, little pods, I guess, and then report back to the group, right? So that still works. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just wanted to hammer home that
that's
there's.
where I had envisioned it.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
So basically, are just the two of us, we can talk independently, but not have a meeting? I'm sorry, are we just limited to kind of email communications?
Yes, I would. Yes, you're limited to email. You just can't really meet and really make collective action as a breakout group or a subgroup. You've got to kind of work on your own and then make the actions at the actual subcommittee meetings like we're having right now.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else we need to identify as next steps to work on before we can officially meet again?
Is there any way that I could get some previous notes of what you've been doing in your meetings before today? I'd like to try to get caught up.
Yes, this is
possible?
Arthur. Lisa, I'll get the notes to you.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else we need to do or discuss today? We're short on time, so I'll just report on our discussions with Dr. George Wright, Dr. Melinda Price via email.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all for your time. And as soon as we hear back from Arthur of meeting availability, we'll organize our next formal meeting. In the interim, work independently on our different reviewing the different subcommittee objectives so that we can identify metrics for our report, and we'll circle back soon. If you guys have any questions, any issues come up, please don't hesitate to reach out to PG or myself.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everybody
Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Have a good day.